Yes, they bring supplies. Yeah,
We haven't heard anything back from Well, I think that looks like the cruise.
Yeah, some definitely. Some. Yeah.
So this will be like the first race goes to yeah, I think if they came in 6-5, I mean, the explanation is very lots of information. I guess it's kind of just to go, this is why. And I'll see everything until we get the first one down.
I ended up just spilling like accidentally.
We want to keep the camera connected. No, it's all done now. It's all cleared, so everything's on there. So obviously I'll use my laptop. Yeah,
Okay, so it's actually looking good.
is this stuff loading? Yeah, it's back into my phone.
I've just asked Paul to get the screen ready.
Element contest. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just waiting for. I think there's a race coming through now, so I'm just. Yeah, they're just about to cross the line, so I'll see you in a second. Bye. Bye. I have no idea what I'm doing. There's so
Were you after me? Hello? Yeah, were you after me?
This race is about to start. Okay, I've got the box in the box. Okay. Right. You give me the repechages to 2 semifinals. Yeah? Yeah. Right.
Yeah, there's nothing on the iPad.
Yeah, go off the paper.
Are you happy for us to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, Paddy, go off the paper.
Sorry, Phil had said we'd send paperwork.
I'm just saying,
Good morning and welcome to BUCS Regatta 2022. Thank you so much for joining us. We're live here at the National Water Sports Centre in Nottingham. We've had a fantastic morning of time trials so far, and the first side-by-side race has just got underway. We're starting off with the men's intermediate lightweight single sculls.
You're going to be at time today. Make sure you come and visit the University of Development Theatre, British Rugby.
Right. So who's the playing?
So we're coming up towards the 1,000 metres in this first of our men's intermediate single sculls semi-finals. 6 crews in 6 colours in this one. The first 3 will go through to the A final, the remainder to the B final. Our lane order, we've got Glasgow A in 1, Cambridge in 2, Queen's Belfast in 3, Queen's Belfast A in 4, Edinburgh University in lane number 5, and De Montfort A in lane number 6. They're coming up towards the 1,000 metres now, and it does look like it's Queen's Belfast who are out in front.
Caught up by the no red.
Queen's Belfast ahead of Cambridge, second Queen's Belfast Sculler, and Edinburgh University. So in this first semi-final we've got the Queen's Belfast Sculler who won the time trial, Dominic Murta, and also the Queen's Belfast Sculler that came fourth in the time trial, James Foley. Queen's Belfast look really strong in the singles so far today. Strong performances in this, the intermediate open weight singles and the championship singles. So we're through 500 metres to go, coming up towards 250, and this is Queen's A in lane number 4 ahead of Queen's B in lane number 3. It looks like it's a race between Edinburgh and Cambridge in lanes number 2 and 5 for the last spots in the A final. I think Cambridge have it slightly at the moment just out of picture to the right of shot. The 2 Queen's Scullers currently out in front of this one. On the left hand side of your screen, Sculler in lane number 4 led the time trial and currently leading the first of these semi-finals, getting quite comfortable, able just to control the race now into the last 200 metres. Now they're coming up towards the red boys. A little look over the shoulder from the Cambridge Sculler just coming into shot on the right of your screen, just checking where the Sculler from Edinburgh University is over on the far side. But it's the 2 Queen's Scullers on the left of shot looking like the class of this field, and I think they are going to take the first 2 spots and go straight through to the A final. Cambridge University down on the bottom. They will take the final spot going through. They're coming across the line now, the two Queen's Belfast scholars, just about a length separating them. Length and a half to Cambridge. And it's Edinburgh who are just going to miss out. They'll go through to the B final. And then rounding out this field in the men's intermediate singles, we've got to Montfort University just coming into screen now. And then it will be Glasgow. So moving on to the second semi-final now of the men's intermediate lightweight single sculls. Strathclyde, Reading, Nottingham, Derby, Aberdeen and Cardiff in this one. They've just gone through 1,000 metres. A little bit hard to tell from here, but I think it is the two scholars from Nottingham and Derby in the middle of the course. The crews that were second and third in the time trial. That is Ollie Hanks from Derby and James Lawn from the University of Nottingham.
I got, so is lane 1. Coming up towards 250 metres to go now, and it is Nottingham University in lane number 3 out in front over Derby. And I think in lane number 2, Reading currently sitting in third spot, but it is Reading and Aberdeen in lanes 2 and 5 who are going to be fighting for the final spot in the final. Cardiff and Strathclyde just out of the running at the moment. But into the last 150 metres, and it is Nottingham University who have a lead of around about a length over Derby. With Reading University still sitting in third, Aberdeen in fourth. So it's James Lawn of University of Nottingham. He was around about a second behind University of Derby in the time trial, but he's overturned that into around about a 2-length advantage here in the semi-final. It's still very, very tight for that third spot between Reading and Aberdeen as Nottingham come across the line, followed by Derby, but it is then going to be very, very tight for this third spot. I think Reading University just going to hold on over Aberdeen by around about half a length. So that is Joseph Bates from the University of Reading over Jakob Spikowski of the University of Aberdeen. And then we've got Strathclyde's Anthony Fjodoruk ahead of Cardiff University's Angus Gould to round out that semi-final of the men's intermediate lightweight singles.
So we've got the first of our repechages now for the men's championship lightweight singles on the start line now. 5 crews contesting this one. We've got Reading University in lane 2, Durham University in 3, Queen's University Belfast B in lane number 4, Glasgow University in lane number 5, and Imperial in lane number 6. The top 2 from the time trials went straight through to the A final in these repechages, so there's just 2 spaces left in the A final here.
Imperial men's championship lightweight gold on lane 6 crew, get the practical break. Imperial, you will make it start. Little warning, please acknowledge. Durham, you will make it start. Little warning. Durham, please do not come down the middle of the course. Stay in lane 7 and then to the front until lane 1 gets started.
Further away.
The outcome of this race, the first 2 to the final. Then get eliminated. Reading, Durham, Queen's Belfast B, Glasgow, Imperial, Attention, Lane 48, Queen's Championship lightweight single start, start 2, start 15, lane 2, Oxford, lane 3, Cambridge, lane 4, UCL, lane 5, Leicester, lane 3.
So we are underway now with the first of the repechages for the men's championship lightweight singles, and I have to say, now joined next week in the commentary box by Grace Duffy, who's going to be with us for the next 3 days here in the commentary studio. Welcome on, Grace.
Thank you.
So we're coming up towards the 1,000-metre marker in this first repechage. As I said earlier, just 2 spaces available here, so it's going to be very, very tight. We can see in the centre of our shot there, we've got Queen's, Belfast, Surrey on the right, a picture, and Glasgow on the left. Looks like they may be the 2 leading crews as we are coming up towards the 1,000-metre marker. So through that 1,000-metre marker, and is Queen's over Glasgow, with Reading just there in lane number 2. Looks like they're currently sitting in 3rd position. Actually, our times there have just shown that Durham's come through in front, but we haven't seen them in our shot.
Oxford, Cambridge, UCL, Loughborough, London, neutral. Race 129. First race semi-finals and the winning beginner single result. Come on to A, lane 1. Pass, lane 2. Edinburgh B, lane 3. Durham B, lane 4. Birmingham C, lane 5. Imperial, lane 6. 4 minutes.
So now just coming through the 500 metre mark, and it looks like it's Queen's B, which is Kieran Purdy, which is leading at the moment.
So we've got Durham showing in the lead on our timings, but they may be sitting down in 5th position. We've only got a 5-boat final here, so there's no crew in lane number 1. I think everything is actually shifted over by 1 lane, so it is in lane number 4, Queen's Belfast, who are in front of lane number 5, Glasgow, and then it's lane 2, Reading, who are currently sitting in 3rd position. And those timings as they went through the 1,000 metre marker. They're into the last 200 metres now, and I think actually Reading University, Alistair Holborough, has rode through Ewan Matthews of Glasgow in the second half of this race and is now sitting in 2nd position.
So now just approaching the finish, it looks like it's Queen's Belfast through the finish line first, followed closely by Glasgow, which is Ethan Matthews, and in 3rd position it looks like it's Reading.
So Glasgow's Ewan Matthews was in 2nd, but just dropped down into 3rd in the second half of the race. Callum Prosser from Edinburgh coming through in 4th, and in 5th over on the far side of the lake it is Evan Fisher from Imperial. So the second of the repechage is underway, just about to come through 1,000 metres. We've got Strathclyde, Oxford, Cambridge, UCL and Loughborough. And this looks like we've got Oxford and Cambridge in lanes 3 and 4 currently going through. In the lead, that is Nicholas Ryan and Orlando Morley. So they would have been set there, the 4th and 5th fastest from the time trial. We got then Strathclyde's Andrew Laird just coming into your picture now. So the top 2 from the time trial, probably no surprise, they were 1st and 3rd at the TV rowing final trials a couple of weeks ago. The University of Edinburgh's Dale Flockhart and the University of Strathclyde's Ben Parsonage. They took the top 2 spots, so they've gone straight through, able to save some energy for the A final later on. Looks like getting some tactical decisions there. Just seen the Strathclyde rower in lane number 2. Just took a look over his shoulder, realised that he wasn't going to get into those top 2 places, and notably lowered the rating by quite a few strokes per minute, making the sort of decision that if you're not going to get into one of those top 2 spots, then it's probably not worth expending all of your energy in this repechage.
Race 130. Second AD semi-final, the winner single result.
Is
Portsmouth, lane 1. Edinburgh Fleet, lane 2. Thorough, lane 3. Edinburgh Holme, lane 4. Nottingham, lane 5. Portsmouth, lane 4.
So now just approaching the 250 mark, and it is Oxford in the lead, and that is Nicholas Ryan, followed by Orlando Morley, which is for Cambridge, and these look like they might be the two spots that go through to the A final.
So into the last 50 metres or so, and it is Nicholas Ryan of Oxford just coming across the line now with about a 3/4 of length lead over University of Cambridge's Orlando Morley. So those two comfortably taking the top two spaces going to the A final. And then coming through now in lane number 5, it's UCL's Alexander Slaughter. Ahead of Loughborough's Tom Keel, and then University of Strathclyde closest to the camera, Andrew Laird, will come through in 5th. Was sitting in that 3rd position, but decided not to contest the second half of the race to save energy for the B final later on. Although I actually need to check if we do have a B final for the Championship lightweight singles. Don't always have a B final unless there's quite a strong entry in the B final events. Andrew Laird just coming across the line now. So we're straight on to our next set of events, which is the women's beginner singles semi-final. And it'll be the top 3 crews going through here, and you can see Durham University in your shot at the moment. So our lineup in this one, we've got Jessica Love of De Montfort in 1, Kiara Usher of Bath in 2, Genevieve Wilkes of Edinburgh in 3, Imogen Curtis of Durham in 4, Hannah O'Flynn from Birmingham in 5, and Helena Shapton of Imperial in lane number 6. And it is Durham University's Imogen Curtis with a huge lead going through the 1,000 metre marker ahead of Edinburgh University's Genevieve Wilkes.
Yeah, because I'm in there tonight.
Race 131. First AD semi-final of the women's Oxford, lane 1. lane 2. Cambridge E, lane 3. Cambridge E,
Let me know how it goes.
Imperial, lane 5. Cambridge A, lane 6. 4.
So are we waiting for someone to watch
So in first is Durham, which is in the bottom left of your picture, followed closely by Edinburgh, and then it's the battle for third place between Bath University and the University of Birmingham, and that's between Hannah O'Flynn and Clara Usher.
Very impressive performance here from this Durham University beginner singles. Reminder for these beginner events, all of these athletes have started rowing within the last 10 months or so. So they're all athletes who've taken up rowing since getting to university. They've learned this year, and to get to this point to be racing in a single scull in a 2K side-by-side regatta within around about 8 or so months of starting rowing, very, very impressive. Durham University always got a strong beginner programme, have performed very well in this event in years past, and I'm sure we'll be seeing all of their beginner crews doing very well over the next few days. In second place, Edinburgh University. Last year we had an incredible performance by the Edinburgh women, Edinburgh beginner women I should say. They managed to have the top 6 places in this event, and the A final was completely filled out by Edinburgh University crews. Doesn't look like we're going to be repeating that feat this year, but still a strong performance by Genevieve Wilkes. But for Durham University's Imogen Curtis, just coming up towards the red buoys now, which signifies 100 metres to go, and a strong commanding lead in this semi-final of the women's beginner singles.
And just through the finish now, that is Durham University going through to the A final, Imogen Curtis, followed closely by Genevieve Wilkes for Edinburgh.
So just one more spot left in the A final, and it looks like it is going to be Birmingham University's Hannah O'Flynn in lane number 5, just coming into shot now, and they're going to take the final spot in the A final. The remainder of our 3 scullers who are doing pretty well, even just to get into the AB semi-finals here. We had a very big field in the women's beginner singles, but it is Bath's Kira Usher who is going to come through in 4th place ahead of Imperial and De Montfort. De Montfort in lane number 1. Just coming into shot now, they're going to come through in 5th, ahead of Imperial in 6th.
Lane 132. Second A-League semi-final of the women's intermediate boxing pairs. Glasgow, lane 1. Cambridge, lane 2. Nottingham, lane 3. Durham, lane 4. Aberdeen, lane 5. Edinburgh, lane 6. Four.
So we've just gone through the 1,000-metre marker in this second semi-final of the women's beginner single sculls. A quick lane order for you. We've got Amelia Cole of Portsmouth in 1, Olivia Padwick of Edinburgh in 2, Kira Jill Ryan of Durham in 3, Olivia Burns of Edinburgh in 4, Hannah Shreve of Newcastle in 5, and Morgan Callahan of Bournemouth in 6. Now, coming up towards 500 metres to go, you can see it's Edinburgh University in that distinctive baby blue, who is well out in front. So then Durham University in lane number 3 in second. It was the third Edinburgh University sculler, Olivia Padwick, who was in third going through the 1,000 metres, but I would now say maybe Newcastle University in lane number 5 has moved out into that third position, and Olivia Padwick of Edinburgh just dropping slightly back.
So just as we're coming through 250 metres to go, it is Edinburgh leading, followed by Durham University, and then in third place it's Newcastle.
So we've been talking down the Edinburgh University sculler in lane 2, but actually from our position now in the finish tower, I think they maybe haven't dropped back quite as much as we thought they had, and I think they might still be ahead of the Newcastle University sculler. So Edinburgh trying to get their third athlete into the A final. So as it currently stands, we're going to have 3 Edinburgh, 2 Durham and 1 Birmingham trying to spoil the party in the women's beginner singles final later on today. But for our leader, Olivia Burns, Edinburgh University A, came second in the time trial and is currently leading into the last few metres of the second semi-final of the women's beginner singles. Does indeed cross the line in first position. Durham University's Yara Gill Ryan coming through in second place, and it is Edinburgh University's Olivia Padwick coming through in third. Newcastle University just missing out in fourth, and we'll have Portsmouth and Bournemouth, the South Coast rivals. They will round out the field in the women's beginner single sculls. So we're getting through the events thick and fast now. We're on to the first semi-final of the women's intermediate pairs. Race number 131. It's already through 1,000 metres, rapidly approaching 500 metres to go. So we have got Oxford University B, straight by Oriane Grant in lane 1, Claire Hole of Cambridge in 2, Alice Dyson of Cambridge in 3, Alexander Riddle Webster of Cambridge in 4, Daisy Bethel of Imperial in 5, and Karina Grapp of Cambridge in 6. So Cambridge absolute sweep in this event. There's 4 crews out of the 6, and 3 of them are currently in the top 3 positions. So there's in lane 4, lane 3 and lane 2, which are the D, E and C crews respectively. So really impressive strength and depth here from the Cambridge University squad. But the Dark Blues of Oxford in lane number 1 are going to be looking to spoil the party in the second half of this race and see if they can get themselves up into those qualifying spots. And the crews in the middle of the course just looking like they're struggling a little bit with their steering at the moment. The umpires launch keeping a very, very close eye on them. And that might give the Imperial and Cambridge crews over on the far side in lanes 5 and 6 the opportunity to come back. There wasn't a huge amount separating crews in 2nd through 5th going through the 1,000 metre marker, just 5 seconds, around about a length and a half for a pair. But into the last 250 metres now, and it is definitely the Cambridge crew in lane number 4, Cambridge D, who are well out in front, but it's then going to be really, really tight for those remaining spaces.
So now taking those last few strokes towards the finish line, that is Cambridge D through first, closely followed by Cambridge E and Cambridge C.
Very impressive performance there by the 3 Cambridge crews, including one that I think might be a college crew, the ones that came through in 2nd. Imperial and Cambridge over on the far side, lane 5 and 6. They were getting quite close together towards the end of the race. The umpire's flag looking very, very busy. And then Oxford on the near side in lane number 1, just coming across the finish line now in the first of our semi-finals in the women's intermediate pairs. Let's see a replay now as our leading crew, Cambridge University D, going through with maybe just shy of a 2 lengths lead over Cambridge University E. They also led by about a length and a half over Cambridge University C. So we're going to go straight back down to the 1,000 metres now for the second of our women's intermediate pairs semi-finals. Just through the 1,000 metre mark, and that looked like it was Nottingham University leading over Durham and another Cambridge crew. So our lineup for this one, we've got Glasgow University in 1, Cambridge University in 2, Nottingham in 3, Durham in 4, Aberdeen in 5 and Edinburgh in lane number 6. And going through that 1,000 metre marker, it looks as though it was Nottingham University with those bright yellow blades and cream kit that you can see in the middle of your shot at the moment. They were ahead of the Durham crew, who we were just panning to, with Cambridge University B sitting in 2nd place. Great shot from our camera here on the finish line. You can see 5 of our pairs fanned out across the field, and you can see in the centre it's Nottingham and Durham who were in the first and second place going through that 1,000 metre marker. They're coming up towards 500 metres to go now. So they're still in that middle phase of the race. We're still trying to set a strong, relentless rhythm. Can't quite yet think too much about the finish, especially in a pair. Those last 500 metres can feel a little bit long. There's not a huge amount of wind here at the National Water Sports Centre today. A very, very nice, clear day. But if there's any wind, maybe just the ever so slightest of headwinds. Good shot there now. You can see over on the far side of the course, Edinburgh University look like they've had a strong second half of their race. I think they are through the Aberdeen pair. It might be tough for them to get up into these top 3 spaces in the second half of this race. Into the last 500 metres now. You can see the blue boards over on the far side. That one in particular that they've just passed through signifies 500 metres to go. I think it's still Nottingham University in lane number 3 who are leading this one, with Durham and Cambridge chasing hard behind.
So now just coming through that 250 metres to go, it's Nottingham looking like they're in first place, followed by Cambridge and Durham in the fight for second place.
It's a really, really tight battle here, and Edinburgh University on the far side are sprinting incredibly hard trying to get into this A final. I think they might just be missing out at the moment. They're into the red boys. Nottingham University, they've got a clear advantage in this one, but it's going to be very, very tight for the remaining spots going through to the A final. Coming up towards the finish line now, it is Nottingham University who lead. Durham and Cambridge in second and third as it currently stands. And across the line they go. I think it was Durham and Cambridge just taking those second and third spaces. Edinburgh just missing out over on the far side. Gutting for the Baby Blue crew. Aberdeen coming through in 5th. And then down the bottom now we aim to have Glasgow coming through in 6th position. Take a replay now looking as we come across the line. Very, very tight for second place between Durham and Cambridge. Oh, very, very tight there. That's just going to be important for lanes later on. I think Durham may have just edged it over Cambridge in the fight for second. But all 3 of those crews will go through to the A final. And we're moving now on to the men's intermediate singles semi-final. That's just gone through the 1,000 metre marker now. So once again, 3 crews going through to the A final. In the lane order for this one, we have Ben Newton from York in 1, Ed Gardner from Reading in 2, Norbert Stulbinskis of Plymouth in 3, Conan Patsia from Queens in 4, James Gare from Bath in 5, and Robert Kilgore from Edinburgh in lane number 6. And I'd say now joined in the commentary box by Freya Elwood, who's going to be with us for the next couple of hours. Welcome, Freya.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It looks set to be a fantastic couple of days of racing, and I think we've got off to a really impressive start. But these men's intermediates look, at the moment, very, very tied. I'd just say perhaps it's at lane 3, just pulling away. Lanes 3 and 4, perhaps Queens and Plymouth.
Yeah, so we've got the white kit with the green stripe from Queens Belfast in lane number 4. They won the time trial earlier on today, I believe. And yes, I just passed that in lane number 5, Bath, sitting in second position currently, I believe. Yes, so Conan Patsia from Queen's University Belfast won the time trial ahead of Norbert Stulbinskis of University of Plymouth, who came in 4th, and the University of Reading's Ed Gardner was in 5th in that one. But Conan Patsia won that time trial over his compatriot from Queen's Belfast, so no surprise to see him out in front of this first semi-final as they're coming up towards 500 metres to go.
What I think is really interesting about the singles is obviously we don't see them at Bucks Head, so it really is all to play for, and we never know what's going to happen at the regatta.
Absolutely. And so a lot of these athletes have been in training in crew boats for quite a lot of this year. Most of their focus will be on the crew boats, but then jumping into the singles for BUCS Regatta and putting in a really impressive performance so far. Conan Patsia from Queens looking really, really strong. Just able to sit around about 2 or 3 lengths up on the field. And I think it is in lane number 5, Reading, that has, Bath, my apologies, that has moved through into second position in this race.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Into the red boys now, and it is Queen's Belfast who are currently leading out in this one, but it is still Plymouth in second over Bath in third. They are the 3 that will go through to the A final. Queens across the line now ahead of Plymouth, Norbert Stulbinskis and James Gare of Bath in second and third.
Really, really successful row from Plymouth there, who've had a great season, and also got a shout out from BBC Radio 1 yesterday.
Oh.
So there we go, well done Plymouth.
So a quick replay now as we see our leading crews as they came across the line, with Queen's Belfast ahead of Plymouth and Bath University in that first semi-final of the men's intermediate single sculls. So I take a look down the course now. It looks as though the second semi-final already well underway, coming up towards the 1,000 metre marker now. Who have we got racing in this one?
In lane number 1 you've got Oliver Dominique from Nottingham Trent. In lane 2 from Leeds Beckett you've got Sam Maloney. In 3 for the Manchester C is Felix Rummel. The Queen's University Belfast B is Nathan Timoney. From Nottingham we've got Don Brown in lane 5, and lane number 6 is Del Montfort B, Stuart Britton.
So I think we'll be expecting to see the class of this field coming from those two centre lanes, 3 and 4. Queen's Belfast came second in the time trial, University of Manchester came third, only 2 seconds separating them. And I believe we are looking indeed at those two scullers in the centre of the course now.
So interesting to see how similar rates, similar styles of rowing, and how this will play out down the course, whether we'll see any massive changes or whether these two will go down the course neck and neck.
Yeah, it also looks like the University of Nottingham sculler, Don Brown, right up there as well, just picking up the yellow blades and green kit of Nottingham. So they're actually currently sitting in second position, just behind the Queen's University sculler. So we'll have to wait for the camera to pan round to get an eye on where Manchester University's Felix Rummel is currently sitting.
Just getting some timings through from the mid mark of 1,000 metres. We've obviously got the Queen's University Belfast, followed by Nottingham, followed by Manchester, I'd like to say, in lane 3. But obviously you'll see on the top left of your screen as the times come through.
So just coming through, 500 metres to go, and it is still Nathan Timoney of Queen's Belfast. In this one we saw Queen's winning the first semi-final, so Queen's doing very, very strongly in the men's sculling event so far today, with Don Brown of Nottingham still sitting in second. I think it's going to be tight for that third spot between Leeds, Beckett and Manchester in lanes 2 and 3.
I think Queen's have had a fantastic season so far. 6 medals at BUCS Head. It wouldn't be a surprise to me if we saw even more come through at the regatta.
Huge amounts of cheering I can hear from the banks for these crews as they're moving into the last 200 metres now of their semi-final in the men's intermediate singles. Really dominant performance from Nathan Timoney of Queen's University Belfast, able to sit in front of the field. Manchester's Felix Rummel has pushed up in the second half of this race, getting close towards the sculler from Nottingham, and able to hold off Leeds Beckett's Sam Maloney in the last few strokes of this race. It'll be really, really tight for second here between Nottingham and Manchester. Coming up to the line is Queen's Belfast, who crossed the line in first position. Then really tight over on the far side. I think Nottingham just finishing ahead of Manchester, with Leeds Beckett just missing out on that A final in fourth.
Still such an impressive row from all four rowers. Very, very tight race. And I think that's the great thing about the semi-finals. It really is always a tight race because you're trying to separate out. And here comes... Is that Don Montfort? No.
So Nottingham, Trent, down closest to our Coventry Tower, just coming across the line now, and then De Montfort over on the far side of the course.
Should we just skip straight?
Pick it up. So you can see on the start line we got the women's beginner 8 lining up, but we do have one race that is still currently on the course, which is the repechage of the men's championship singles. 4 places through to the A final available in this one. We've got Cyrus Larkin of Nottingham, Levin Graff of Durham, Aidan Thompson of Surrey, Mike Simpson of Edinburgh, John Lyon of Reading, and Cameron Kemp of Edinburgh. So 4 places going through. Just 2 scullers will miss out in this one. Looks as though we might have had one scratch. I can't see the sculler in lane number 6 represented in this one, and Nottingham in lane number 1. Looking a little bit off the pace. So I think it is going to be the 4 scullers in the middle of the course, Durham, Surrey, Edinburgh and Reading, who are going to be going through to the A final in this men's championship singles.
York University, come down to the start, please. York University through N1. On the word you begin to 8, come down to the start, you are in lane 1.
So coming up towards 100 metres to go now, and it is Reading University's John Lyon leading over Mike Simpson of Edinburgh University. I think all 4 of these scullers that you can see in the middle of your screen now are going to be going through to the A final of the men's championship single. But it is Reading leading over Edinburgh, over Surrey, over Durham, and it is just the sculler from Nottingham University, Cyrus Larkin, who's currently missing out.
Yeah, just so as when we get to 2 minutes, you haven't run this sort of race, you're not moving around. Yeah, that's great.
York, turn around and get a touch, 2 minutes to the lower in and out.
Just seeing replays there of our repechage for our men's championship singles, with 4 of the scullers going through into the A finals. Okay, here we have at the start of the race our lineup for our women's beginner 8 semi-finals for the A and B. We've got in lane 1 York, 2 Imperial, 3 Exeter, 4 Surrey, 5 Bristol and 6 Liverpool. This will be a fantastic race. I'm sure the Liverpool women have done amazingly in the intermediate category, so it'll be very, very interesting to see what their beginners can do as well. Again, Imperial, always a strong women's team, so we'll love to see what will come down the course from their beginners. As the crews flash up on your screens, the crews are getting ready. The adrenaline is building. The coxes will be getting the boats into position for perhaps one of the best races in the regatta, the beginner 8s. Anything can happen. Anything is possible.
The beginner events in general just always great for providing excellent racing, really, really good entertainment as well.
Okay, the crews look like the blades are squared and buried. Here we go.
Yeah, great to see. It's our first race that we've been able to see right off the start. And a fantastic camera there from our starting towers. You can see the crews churning away through the first 100 metres. Our umpire's boat there just dropping in behind to follow the race down, make sure there are no any infringements that needs their attention as they go down the course.
Looking like a very clean start from both of the middle crews. But obviously these things can all change as we approach the first 250 metres.
Okay, all women's 8, let's get attached. Row into your lane and back onto the start. Nice and straight.
So, see the crew that's in lane 4, fourth from the left, Surrey University, who are pulling away, and probably no surprise, they won the time trial for this event by 20 seconds, which in an 8 over a 1500 metre course is pretty astounding.
Enormous. Surrey were also the crew that won the gold at the BUCS Head, followed by Queen's University Belfast and Imperial College London. But in this particular semi-final, Leeds came 5th at Liverpool came 5th at BUCS Head, so it'll be interesting to see how they do.
Yeah, so we got a few of the crews that did really well at BUCS Head in this one. I see, you said, with that medal as well, they came 5th in the time trial, and they are probably the 3rd fastest crew in this semi-final, finished just behind Exeter in the time trial.
The coxes will now be getting their rowers to settle, to focus back in on racing and to get in the zone as we start to approach the 500 metre mark. This is where the discipline will kick in and the technique.
So we mentioned it earlier during the singles, but a reminder that for these beginner events, all of these athletes started rowing this academic year. So no prior experience in rowing going into this year. And look how classy this Surrey crew look. Just going past our safety boat at the 1,000 metre marker now. But for a beginner crew, looking really, really together, and the connected drive through the middle of the stroke that this Surrey crew has. All the bodies moving in sync, all the blades looking well connected through the water. Surrey have had a fantastic few years by their head coach Sam Tuck. Had some really, really strong crews in their their men's beginner crew from last year looked really, really impressive and went on to race at Henley Regatta, and this women's beginner crew looking equally as impressive.
Our camera crew's picking up a lovely shot of Surrey in their matching pink skins. Fantastic style choice, fantastic. Very complimentary to the blue.
The fashion at BUCS Regatta almost as important as the racing. Some good fashion and some interesting choices, especially on the headwear front we've seen over the time trials.
I think if we're talking about fashion, it would have to be right to mention University Bath with the ducks on the leggings and Strathclyde's polka dots. They're probably the best stylistic choices. Okay, as we're coming up to 1,000 metres, looking at the times, well, Surrey are storming it almost 20 seconds even ahead of the competition. As you'll see on your screen, there we go. So there's the race order. As it stands, it is Surrey in first, Exeter second, Imperial College London third, Bristol fourth, Liverpool fifth, and York sixth. Just a reminder to everyone watching at home, the top 3 crews of this race will go into the A final. And with only a second separating Imperial College London and Bristol, it is still very much all to play for.
So those times, especially for the top 3 currently going to form from the time trial, Surrey, Exeter and Imperial. Great shot there from our camera at the 1,000 metres. You can see the crews rowing away from the 1,000 metres, but all the supporters on the banks, all the gazebos lined up against the river. A lovely fresh day here at the National Water Sports Centre. Not the warmest day that we've had for BUCS in previous years, but always nice to have the sun out and not a huge amount of wind, which is always a very important thing.
From this angle, you can really start to see the crews with the discipline, with the timing, with the body swings, and it's incredibly important, particularly in a beginner crew, that is really the focus. Obviously, power and strength training comes throughout, several years at a university career, but it is obviously so important for the beginners to nail the technique in their first year.
You're absolutely right, and there's no point being a beginner with a load of power if you don't know how to use it. So how you can get that blade connected around the front end and push through the legs, hanging off the handle, getting that suspension, and then being able to do that in time with 7 other people. If you can do that, then you can start to think about adding the power and applying it.
I think Surrey have certainly managed to do both. As we're coming through to the final 500 metres, we have Surrey in first, but there still is a contention for the last 2 places in the final.
Yep, so Bristol were sitting in 4th going through the 1,000 metre marker. They're going to be trying to hunt down Imperial or Exeter. I think it's Imperial probably closest, just a second separating them at 1,000 metres gone. I think IC have just pushed out in the second half of this race, and I think IC are sitting in a slightly more comfortable 3rd over Bristol at the moment. This Surrey crew looking absolutely dominant, can barely fit the rest of the crews in shot at the moment as they come flying through our camera position near the finish line. They're just coming up towards the finish now with an absolutely dominant performance here.
One of the best women's 8s, let alone beginner, but that was absolutely a fantastic row from Surrey. Congratulations, girls, and good luck in the final. Here they come now. The boys have turned red, and it is Exeter, I believe, followed by Imperial College, of Bristol just giving it everything they've got through the last 250 metres. And it will be Imperial that takes that 3rd spot in the A final, just followed by Bristol.
Yeah, shame there for Bristol, just missing out. They held close up to the 1,000 metres, just dropping back slightly in the second half of the race. We then got Liverpool over on the far side of the course. They're going to come through in 5th. And then closest to the camera, should just be coming into shot in a second, we've got York University. There indeed they are, just finishing off their race now in the women's beginner 8. And I think we're going to have the second semi-final coming down the course very, very shortly.
Okay, so after that fantastic semi-final, here is our second semi-final AB for the women's beginner 8s. In lane 1 we have Edinburgh, in 2 we have Nottingham, in 3 Queen's University Belfast, in 4 we have Oxford, in 5 we have Leeds, and 6 is Durham. Again, this is a fantastic angle to see the blades, the connection, the timing, the body rock. So important for our beginner crews to really solidify their technique in what is perhaps, for most of them, their first regatta. Quite a difficult angle to see from here, but it does look like, I would say that's Queen's University Belfast, perhaps, just taking a lead. Just looks like Oxford have made a push for it as they get to the first 500 metres and have taken what looks like just a length and a half lead over Nottingham.
Yeah, and Queen's Belfast sitting in 3rd, just coming into shot now. I think as our crews come level with our camera, I think Queen's pretty close up there with the Oxford University crew. So I think these 2 crews who are 2nd and 3rd in the time trial currently locked together, very, very close as they come through the 1,000 metre marker. Absolutely nothing separating them, maybe 1 or 2 seats in favour of Queen's University Belfast over Oxford.
Queen's University Belfast came 2nd in this event in BUCS Head this February, so it'll be really interesting to see how they do in this semi-final. Also, just to mention that Leeds in lane 5 came 6th in BUCS Head. Durham came 4th, and they are in lane 6. So it really is all to play for. As we approach the halfway marker, we can see that Queen's University Belfast are in 1st, Oxford 2nd, with only a second separating the 2. We've got Nottingham in 3rd, Leeds in 4th, and Edinburgh in 5th, with mere seconds, 10 seconds separating all crews. This is where the coxes really come into play, with 10 seconds separating the crew. It will be about crew control, and it will be about passion of the coxes. I think the best thing about the coxes are, you know, the crews can bring the best out of the coxes and the coxes can bring the best out of the crews. So it'll be really interesting to see how they handle such close side-by-side racing. I think there was just a little bit of a steering malfunction perhaps there.
Yeah, I think the Nottingham University crew there just having a couple of steering issues, but I think they're back on course now. Hopefully we can get some fantastically enthusiastic coxes in the beginner events as well. They don't have to be beginners like the athletes. You can have an experienced coxing a beginner crew, but most of the universities do tend to bring on new coxes as well. So you need to have a good feeder system for coxes for your senior crews as well as athletes. Coming up towards 250 metres to go now. Great shot of all 6 of our boats here at the National Water Sports Centre. And Oxford have pushed out over Queen's Belfast in the second half of this race. I think they maybe lead now over Queen's by around about half a length. Nottingham University in lane number 2, still sitting in 3rd spot, still set to go through to the A final, holding off over Leeds and Edinburgh.
I think we could see Queen's make quite a big push for this as we come into the last 250 metres, where the boys turn red and everything hurts, everything goes black and pain kicks in, and that's why your cox is so important. They are your eyes and they are your mind. Here they come now, Oxford absolutely storming it through the last 250 metres. We can see the rates picking up on all of the boats. It's really important to ensure timing and precision across the finish line and to not let that technique drop. Seems to be quite an intense battle for 4th happening in the 5th and 6th lane between Durham and Leeds. And there we are, Oxford have crossed the line just in front of Queen's University Belfast, with Nottingham coming in at 3rd. And it looks like it's going to be Leeds in 4th, Durham 5th, and Edinburgh 6th.
Interesting that we got both Durham and Edinburgh finishing in 5th and 6th in that. Both of those universities had really strong representation in the women's beginner single, and I definitely saw from the crew lists that the Edinburgh 8 had quite a lot of those athletes doubling up, and saying that they have really strong scullers at the top, but maybe not have that technical depth to be able to fill out a whole 8 moving really well. And also the impact of doubling up. That's 4 races now that these athletes will have done, and it's only 12:30. And for a beginner, that's
Goodness.
a really intense sort of welcome to racing, doing 4 2Ks in 4 hours.
Welcome to your first regatta. Here's a load of pain. No, it's fantastic, and I think, you know, if we have a repeat of anything like we did last year with the Edinburgh singles, absolutely dominating the women's beginner singles race, then, you know, it will be a fantastic race for them. And it's such wonderful experience to have both sweep and scull behind you. Sculling's obviously much more natural and much better on the back, and sweeping obviously destroys your intercostals, which is lovely. I believe our next race has just started.
Yep, so we're on to the repechage now of the Women's Championship lightweight doubles. These are going to be 2 incredibly tough events. We had 15 crews raced in this event in the time trial. 2 of them went straight through to the ABs. There were 12 of them went through to these repechages, and 1 of them got eliminated. So there's only 2 places available in the final, and I think we can see, going through 1,000 metres, that Durham and Surrey in lanes 4 and 3 respectively are looking in a really good position in this one. Really strong, and I actually can't see anyone else yet in the picture.
No, but looking at both leg drives, they're absolutely fantastic. Both pushing back completely in sync. Both body rocks are absolutely fantastic. This is the thing about the championship. The quality of the races happening and the quality of the technique is just outstanding. I think we can just see Surrey have just a little bit of a quicker recovery coming up the slide, and perhaps are going to take a slight lead over the Durham crew.
Yeah, it will be interesting though. If you're in those top two positions and you've got a big lead over the rest of the field, how much energy are you willing to expend? Especially lightweights, often heavily involved in doubling up, because there's so many lightweight events that you can enter. So having a look at the time trial results here, we had the University of Cambridge and the University of Reading, the top two spots. They went straight through to the A final. Probably no surprise to see the University of Cambridge going straight through with Imogen Grant sitting in the stroke seat. Listen out for her joining us on the commentary a little bit later today. Then in the rest of this field, so Durham University were the quickest of the crews in the repechages. They were about 4 seconds faster than the University of Surrey crew, who were the fourth fastest from the repechages. So we may be expected to see Durham a little bit quicker in the second half of this race, but I don't think there's a huge amount separating them.
As we come through the 1,000 metre mark, we have Durham and Surrey separated by merely a second, followed by Cambridge, Oxford, Montfort University and Bath.
Really tricky position for this Cambridge crew. Looking at those timings, they're sitting 8 seconds off second position and 8 seconds ahead of fourth position, which is I always hated that when I was in a race, when I wasn't close enough to the crew in front to be able to try and catch them, and not really close enough to the crew behind to have to worry too much about them pushing up, and you sort of end up rowing in a little bit of a vacuum with no one else really around you.
I think that's when it just becomes a mental game, isn't it? It's sort of how much discipline are you willing to exert on yourself, and sometimes, it's a hot day, you might just enjoy it, and sometimes you're like, no, come on, today is my day. But as we approach the 500 metre mark, you get a fantastic shot of where all of our crews are on the course rather.
Durham and Surrey still continuing to lead out in this one, and it is Durham still ahead of the University of Surrey. It's just extending that lead, as we thought might happen in the second half of the race, maybe extending it out to around about a length, just a tiny bit more. Cambridge still sitting in third. Jodie Cameron, sitting in that Cambridge crew, had a really impressive career at the University of St Andrews, and won multiple British medals at the Beach Sprints Championships last summer, so a very multidisciplined athlete, and now jumping across to the University of Cambridge, sitting in third place currently, so just looking like she's going to miss out on a spot in the A final.
And the boys have turned red for Durham. This will be it, final push into the A final. Surrey also turned red in the boys. Will they make more of a push? Will they close the gap? This is a question of how much you've got left in the tank. There we go, you can see it on your screens. There's our Durham crew through. And Surrey not too far behind them. There we go, there's Cambridge just crossing the line for you. Sadly missing out on a place in that A final, but still a fantastic, fantastic row. There we go, there's Oxford just coming across the line, followed by the girls at Montfort, still giving it some welly. I believe that's a technical term. Repechages aren't brutal.
And then Bath University just going to round out the field in this first repechage. As we can see, replay of Durham and Surrey coming across the line. Looks like they just Surrey crew just not pushing too hard in that one. Right, so we're now on to the second repechage. Oxford, Brookes, Exeter, Edinburgh, Queen's, Newcastle and Surrey in this one, and very similar to our last race actually, where we've got the two crews in the centre, lanes 3 and 4, going through the 1,000 metres with a pretty hefty advantage over the rest of the field. So we've got Edinburgh and Queen's currently sitting in 3rd and 4th position in this race. You mentioned those Edinburgh beginner singles from last year earlier. I think the Edinburgh lightweight double here has actually got one of the athletes from that final who picked up one of the medals in that All Edinburgh final from last year and jumped up to the championship lightweight event, which is great progression.
As you do. A casual activity for how much? About 11 months? There we go, a fantastic shot of our crews where we can examine the technique, the recovery, any micro pausing. Always interesting to watch BUCS Regatta on the YouTube so you can steal other people's techniques. Sorry everyone, just revealing my secrets.
I think we could be in line for a pretty tight race here between Queen's and Edinburgh, depending on how tight they want to race this one. There was only 0.3 of a second separating them in the time trial. They were the second and third fastest of the crews in the repechages. Then looking down, it would then be Exeter and Newcastle. They were only separated by a second as well, but a sort of fair bit slower than the Queen's and Edinburgh crews. So I think Queen's and Edinburgh look fairly set to take the two places going through to the A final. I don't know if we're going to have a B final for these championship lightweight doubles. It's not showing up on our page. They have introduced B finals for some championship events, especially in these ones where we have such a full field.
Such a strong field.
Still looking very, very close between Queen's and Edinburgh. If I had to say, I'd say I think Queen's maybe just opening up a small advantage. Queen's on the left of your shot there in the white kit with the green and blue stripes across the chest. Edinburgh in that distinctive baby blue with their black and blue blades.
And as we start to come into the last 250 metres, we'll see both crews change their tactics a bit, their techniques and their rates. But it will, I think, be Queen's University Belfast who take the first spot.
Yeah, I don't think either of these crews are letting off too much in the last 250
No,
metres. Maybe Edinburgh
not.
University not quite raising the rate up as much as they might do when it comes to the final later, and there's the final positions, medals, BUCS points, VL points all on the line. I do know Edinburgh have come to this event with a huge number of entries. I think it was over 70 entries or something ridiculous like that.
I would not like to be in charge of that.
They are going after the Victor Ladora Mahard this year, it would seem. So they need to be picking up points everywhere they can, and getting crews into finals of champ events is incredibly important to that.
Absolutely. I mean, they came second in the VL at Bucks Head, so it'd be no surprise to me if that's their goal. And there we have it. There's Queen's University Belfast across the line, followed by Edinburgh, and I believe it's Exeter coming in. Just zhuzhing up the rate. Another technical term from me there. There we go. Fantastic stuff. With the crew from Newcastle, I beg your pardon, just sending it over the line. And then Surrey, and then Oxford. See, yeah, Queen's University Belfast took it up to beat Edinburgh? Yeah, to beat Edinburgh by just about 6 seconds, unofficially. Oh, we have a white flag, which is good. Fantastic. Red flag bad. These are all very technical terms coming from me and Will. Okay, I'm gonna tell Will this now. I am gonna be a little bit biased. Here come UEA. Oh no, am I thinking of the wrong thing? No, we're not. UA's in the next one. Okay, my bias.
You got 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've got 5 minutes to compose myself before I absolutely scream at you down this microphone. Apologies, lovely listeners. Okay, here come our men's beginner fours. Fantastic race always, but here in the semi-final it is a game of tactics, and it is all to play for, with Southampton, Liverpool, Cambridge, Nottingham, Exeter and Bristol trying to qualify for those all-important 3 spaces in the A final.
Beginner fours, another fantastic event. All elites who've started rowing in this academic year. You often find a bit of a mixture in the beginner fours events between the crews that have they've gone big on brawn and the ones that have gone big on technique and boat moving. There's either Cambridge 4 just coming into shot now, looking really smooth. And they are just being trailed at the moment by the crew from University of Liverpool, looking absolutely fantastic.
The BUCS head results for this were Durham, Liverpool, Imperial College, Durham again, and Queen's University Belfast. So interesting to see how this will go, considering side-by-side racing is very different to head racing. The coxes will all be aware of how important it is to keep your crew controlled, particularly if you have a novice crew. It's important to remain calm, because often they are not.
Yeah, and pacing for a 2,000 metre race, and not doing a fast start and absolutely blowing all of your gas in the first 500 metres. Very important. Great shot here, as we can see our leading crews. Looking at the times, only 4 seconds separating our top 5 crews, so that's pretty much a length. So I think it should be in line for a fantastic race here. University of Cambridge, they did win the time trial for this morning. University of Nottingham were in 4th, so they were the second fastest from this race. And then the University of Exeter were the 5th fastest boat. The University of Liverpool, who went through the K in the lead, they were only the 8th fastest in the time trial for this. 8 seconds slower than the University of Cambridge. So a really strong turnaround from this Liverpool crew. As you said, they got that medal at BUCS Ed, which is a fantastic result for them. And they're looking to maybe didn't quite put it all together in their time trial this morning.
No, it's absolutely a game of tactics. You want to time trial fast enough so that you get into this semi-final, but you also want to secure your place in the A final. So it really is a game of the tactics, and the coxes will know exactly what they're doing as they look to their left and their right as they see their competitors.
I'd say that this is one of our the tightest races that we've had so far today. I think the top 3 here are not going to have a huge amount separating them at all. Liverpool in the white, Cambridge in the light blue, some might call it green, and then Nottingham just to the right of them. I think those are the 3 leading crews. I think it's going to be tough for Exeter in lane number 2 to contest for those top 3 spots, but who is going to take first, second and third in what order, I don't really know, and that's going to be important for the lane order for later on. You don't want to be stuck on the sides in lane 1 or 6. You want to be in those nice centre positions in lane 3 or 4 where you can control the race, see what's going on around you.
Absolutely, and as we're coming up to the last 250 metres, it will be full steam ahead. There is no opportunity, like we have seen, to perhaps relax a bit, save and conserve your energy. This is a fight, and they'll be doing exactly that, upping the rate, upping the power, and the coxes will be absolutely losing their minds right now. I think we are seeing perhaps a Cambridge-Liverpool 1-2, I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, I think Liverpool have not gone down without a fight, but Cambridge just slightly poking their bow balls out in front. Cambridge, who don't often come to BUCS Head, so we don't see their beginners until they get to BUCS Regatta.
Yeah,
but this crew looking really good. Great hook and drive through the centre, through the middle of the stroke, and they do cross the line around about half a length over Liverpool. Nottingham come through in third. That will be our A final competitors.
Just lovely. I don't know if the viewers got to see that. That was a moment of applause shared between the both Cambridge crews and Liverpool crews towards each other, and I think that really epitomises BUCS Regatta, it is often about just getting fantastic racing in, but fantastic racing and winning if you are those top crews in the A finals. And there we have it, all crews over with the order of Cambridge, Liverpool, Nottingham, Exeter, Strathclyde and Bristol. Really tight between Strathclyde and Bristol. Again, fabulous racing. Even if you don't qualify, you still want to give each other just the best time in terms of competitive racing.
Yeah, Lindsay mentioned that this for the beginners, BUCS Regatta, they may have done a couple of smaller regattas in the last few weeks, but in terms of proper side-by-side 2K racing, this is going to be the first one for most of these crews. And there's a huge amount of experience you can learn, and you got to learn from absolutely every single race. And most of them will be doing the beginner rates tomorrow.
Absolutely. Beginner rate's the best. I'm such a fan. Anyway, here is our second semi-final. It's our men's beginner fours with Bath, Cardiff, Imperial, Durham, East Anglia and York. I will say now I am from the University of East Anglia, so if I do start screaming, it is for that reason and that purpose only.
So coming up towards 1,000 metres, and we can see our crews in lanes 1 to 3 in shot at the moment. So we've got Durham on the left, East Anglia in the middle and York on the right. I think Durham had a very strong performance in the beginner event at Bucks Head, and just having a look at the results from the time trial, Imperial and Durham were the two fastest crews. They're going to be the ones in lanes 4. They're the ones in lanes 4 and 3 respectively. Can't quite see Imperial on our shot yet. As we get closer to the 1,000 metre marker and our camera pans around, I'm sure we'll see them. Durham looking very good, but where are they going to be relative to Imperial?
Doesn't matter, because we can see the silky smooth rowing of the University of East Anglia first boat. There they are, looking gorgeous. Aha, here they are. Here's our other crews. Right, let's do a quick assessment. That is, oh goodness, okay, no, we can't see all of them, because who's that so far out ahead?
That is IC, who are out in front.
Crikey.
They were 3 seconds, it's about 2.5 seconds ahead of Durham in the time trial, and they've gone out to a 1-length lead in this second semi-final of the men's beginner fours. So Imperial and Durham, two of the traditional powerhouses of the university rowing scene, currently out in front of this semi-final, and then we're going to wait for the lane order to come through, and it is Cardiff and UEA, but only 0.2 of a second separating them for that all-important third and final shot. UEA on the left of your shot there, just rowing away from the 1,000 metre marker.
Looking fantastic, lads, keep it up. But yeah, I think it was Imperial College London, Surrey and UEA who medalled in this event last year, so really interesting to see that Durham have snuck their way up there.
Yeah, Durham who had a slightly disappointing development squad last year, but then
brutal.
Really, I think by Durham standards, I think they would expect to be picking up medals in most of the beginner events, and they've really got back to it this year.
Winning ways.
And we can see Imperial there in the centre of the shot, rowing away from the 1,000 metre marker, not looking like a beginner crew at all. If you told me that they were an intermediate 4, I would not disagree with you in the slightest. Looking fantastic. Durham in second place there on the right of the shot, and then just beyond them we can see our crews in lanes 5 and 6. Cardiff, who were in third going through the 1,000 metre marker, and Bath, who were in 5th.
Again, still respectively quite a close race, other than Imperial, who have absolutely stormed ahead of it. It is obviously now all mental as the pain kicks in at the 1,000 metre mark. But yeah, will be really interesting to see if Cardiff can keep this lead over UEA.
So coming up towards 500 metres to go now. You can still see that Imperial crew continuing to stretch out their advantage at the front of the field. But our eyes are going to remain on that battle for third position between Cardiff, who you can see at the moment in your shot. They're sort of just over the left shoulder of the Imperial crew. And UEA, who are just hiding to the right of our camera shot at the moment. Trying to pick it up at the moment. I think it's going to be very, very tight between Cardiff and UEA. I can't quite pick between them at the moment as they're coming towards the last 250 metres. Imperial and Durham continuing to lead this out. IC still looking very, very strong. I think the race between IC and Cambridge later should be a really, really good one.
Come on, boys. Sorry. And here they come into the last 250 metres. The boys are soon starting to turn red, and the crews will know that as they have competed in their time trial earlier this morning. So it's the second time down the course. They know what they're doing. They know when they need to step it on. The Coxes will know when they need to step it on. And here they come, Imperial College into the reds, bringing up the rate. Again, one of those races where you simply cannot relax and just cruise through. Who has it in them to get that A final spot?
So IC just coming up towards the line now with Durham in front of them. Up between Cardiff and UEA, not much separating them. I'd say Cardiff maybe with a small amount at the moment. IC come across the line, Durham come across in second, and at the top of your shots it is going to be Cardiff who come through in that third position, just about half a length of UEA. Freya Dexby just slumped down in her seat with a
boys, I'm gutted for you. I'm gutted for you. You were robbed, guys. Well done, though. You can honestly. This is the wonderful thing about regatta. You know, there are opportunities. You're going to get multiple races in the day, right? And if you're not coming away with a medal, you're not coming away with a medal. But you're coming away with a cracking good day and a great time, and it is just the best feeling in the world. There we go. As our slow motion replay of our Durham crew coming in, followed by Cardiff and East Anglia coming in fourth. Of course, only the top three crews can go into our A final. Our bottom three crews will go into our B final. Oh, we got a lovely shot of Newcastle warming up. Oh, fantastic. Right, some racing. Fantastic. And here is our men's beginners fours semi-finals for the A and B finals.
Great to be joining you, Freya.
Hello, this is Camilla. Woohoo!
No, fantastic to be back here on the YouTube at BUCS Regatta 2022. I'll be with you now for the next couple of hours with Freya, and yeah, kicking off with the first of our men's beginner quad semi-finals, AB semi-finals. Nottingham, Trent, Heriot-Watt, Edinburgh, De Montfort, Durham and Sussex. And this beginner quads event only came into existence maybe 5-6 years ago, and the amount it has grown just continues to amaze me. It was originally maybe like 5 boats when it first came into existence, and now we're fighting for AB semi-final places.
I know, it's fantastic, and I think, you know, having the opportunity to scull as a novice, you know, obviously it's a very body symmetrical, it's very technique heavy as opposed to sculling, as opposed to sweeping, which can be, you know, obviously a bit more brawn, a bit more power. This has got a lot more thinking behind it. I personally feel that could be completely wrong. Coaches, please do not tweet BUCS Sport.
But in the other respect, I think sculling is a really good foundation because it's a little bit more stable, right? You've got control over both sides of the boat. It's a little bit more of a stable platform for the beginners to learn from, and more stable than a single learning how to scull. So it's a great option.
Yeah, the beginners, if people coming down to beginner singles, we're just going to give you a quick round of applause because, you know, good for you, good for you. Anyway, as we can see, the starts have been good from...
So Nottingham, Trent on the left, so you can see the names there from 6 down to 1. Lane 6 is on the left hand side of your picture, lane 1 on the right hand side of your picture. So Nottingham, Trent in the pink, you can see glaringly obviously on their home course. They like to stand out there. Then next to Heriot-Watt, Heriot-Watt based out of Edinburgh in Scotland. Next to their local home rivals, in fact, Edinburgh University lining up just to their right, who have taken a storming lead in that first 500 metres or so. A very dominant performance from them, and it's De Montfort, then Durham and Sussex, who are just off the right hand side of your picture. You can't see Sussex at the moment, but I think Edinburgh with a pretty insurmountable lead at this time, and then maybe their rivals from Heriot-Watt sneaking into second here, Freya.
Very, very strong. In BUCS Head, the results went Durham, Edinburgh, Loughborough, Queen's University, Belfast, and Nottingham Trent crew that you can see, and Reading. So we've got 3 of those crews, I believe, if I can do maths.
Yeah, this would be quite a turnaround for Edinburgh, coming back ahead of Durham, who, again, just off the right-hand side of your picture, Durham University victors at the BUCS 4s and 8s Head that took place in Newcastle back in February. But side-by-side racing, a very different format, very different to prepare for, and Edinburgh certainly are always very skilled at that here at BUCS Regatta. And I think the thing I really like about this Edinburgh quad, who are out in front for beginners, and again,
they're fantastic.
I heard you and Will speaking earlier about the quality of beginner rowing has just gone up and up and up.
Absolutely.
Look at the leg timing from this Edinburgh quad going through that
Fantastic.
1,000 metres. The knees just going down together. That's a sign of a really competent crew, I think, getting that leg timing right.
I mean, leg timing, blade timing, body swing timing. Oh, and actual just general timings coming through now as we enter the 1,000 metre mark. We can see that Edinburgh crew have pulled a very, very successful 3 minutes 33.5, followed by...
I think this is Durham in the foreground of our picture here, just sneaking ahead of Harriet Watt.
Yeah, very sneaky. But with only a fifth of a second separating those crews, it is still very much all to play for. I cannot underestimate how important it is to get that 1,000 to 1.5k right. That really is, I think I've heard it described as the pain cave, the mental tactic cave, the cave you need to make sure you get out of and see the light perfectly. And it's still... I feel so bad for these crews.
I think the thing about rowing that if you're tuning in and you're watching your friends, family, sons, daughters, children for the first time, and you're not really into rowing, you've never watched it before. We race over 2,000 metres for most of these crews, double what you can see on the screen, so around about sort of 7 to 8 minutes roughly.
Yeah.
So that 1,000 to 1,500 metres, it's at that point where it's 4 or 5 minutes in. And you think about a lot of other sports, and I think the thing with a lot of other sports is they are either sprints, so 100 metres, 200 metres in athletics, and they last less than 2 minutes, or they're marathons, 10Ks, the sort of longer
for 90 minutes.
Exactly, and rowing's really unique in that way that it requires both your aerobic and anaerobic, and so that middle 500 metres that you talk about, Freya, that's why that is probably one of the most painful things for any athlete ever across all sports, because it doesn't exist in many other sports.
No, and I think the thing for me about anything coxless really is I rely so heavily on my coxes to just get me through that, and you don't have that. And so these novices will be displaying incredible discipline to be, continuing their excellence, particularly this Edinburgh crew, who, you can see on the centre of your screen, just absolutely nailing their catch timing. Look at that. Lovely stuff.
And they've just taken the rating down a little bit here, coming into the final 300 metres, and they've got beautiful conditions for it. They can really focus, because that's when I think the beginners at BUCS Regattas in previous years, if we've got a bit of a head breeze or a bit of a wind, sometimes don't get to put into practice what they've been training for, and this is a great demonstration of utilising the conditions. So I think Harriet Watt and Durham still having a bit of a ding-dong here. Harriet Watt just out in front ahead of Durham from what I can see on the lake in front of me. We're sat in the finish tower here, myself and Freya, so we've got a great view of the lake as well as the coverage that you're seeing on your screen. So Edinburgh in the blue out in front for the final 200 metres. They will win this semi-final by clear water ahead of their city rivals Harriet Watt, but Durham making a final charge for the line to try and secure second place and perhaps secure a better lane into the final.
Absolutely. And I think we're seeing quite a close battle between Sussex and Notts Trent for the B final. Lanes for B final, yes. Okay, here come our Edinburgh crew classily across that line with Harriet Watt just stepping it up and just pipping Durham to that post. Still a fantastic row from Durham, and here comes Sussex and Notts Trent, with Sussex just absolutely rating it.
In In fact, I think it might even be De Montfort. No, it's okay, don't worry. All the colours, the club uni seats, very difficult to spot here. We have this is the biggest student event for rowing in Europe, and so you can imagine there are lots and lots and lots of clubs here. So De Montfort University from the East Midlands, they will just about come over the line ahead of their East Midlands rivals. Lots of little rivalries going on in this semi-final here, ahead of Nottingham Trent. And then Sussex just coming up into their final 100 metres. They can see the red boys, and they'll be being wheeled on by the spectators here at the National Water Sports Centre. So Sussex go over the line, and we'll bounce on now to the second semi-final of the men's beginner quads. This is going to be contested by, from lanes 6, so the left-hand side of your picture, to lane 1. On the right-hand side of your picture, Queens, Reading, Surrey, Loughborough, Liverpool and Leeds. And we saw Edinburgh with a really dominant display in the first semi-final from the first 500 metres. Not quite as prominent here for Surrey with their lead. They're not shaking off Loughborough just yet, but Surrey, we've seen some real dominance from them across the beginner events this morning. They had a great row in the women's 8, didn't they?
I think their novice programme is just fantastic, and you know, it is just a testament to the hours of coaching and preparation that goes into these events. You know, it cannot be understated that the people you are seeing on your screen only started rowing this academic year, so to watch, you know, the level, like, look at that. If you'd have told me that was an intermediate crew, I wouldn't have questioned it. Just the excellence coming through, fantastic, really, really strong.
Yeah, so on your screen there, that's actually Queen's University Belfast. Wow. Coached by Megan Hunter, the Queen's University Belfast crew over here from Northern Ireland. Big long journey for them, one of the longest journeys in fact to reach here, and they weren't even in our picture when we were looking before, which is why we thought that Surrey were in the lead, but in fact Surrey leading the next pack back in second. Queen's University Belfast now, really strong performances from them at BUCS Head, really strong performances from them in previous years, and a lot of their athletes go on to represent Ireland at the World Championships and the Olympics, so it's a great breeding ground actually, Queen's, for future talent, and I'm sure these 4 guys here will be on that pathway.
So as we come through the 1,000 metres, we're just getting the timings through. There we go. So it's Queens in first, Surrey, Loughborough, Reading, Liverpool and Leeds. Only 13 seconds separating our top, well, there's Queens and everyone else, which is fantastic, but it will be really, really interesting to see our battle for 3rd and 4th. Obviously 3rd confirms you a place in the A final. Oh, is that a slight steering issue perhaps?
Yeah, we can see Leeds just on the right hand side of the picture there, and you mentioned earlier about not having a cox to be able to sort of coach you through that 3rd 500 fair, but the other really important job a cox does here is steer the boat, and I know it's a straight line, from A to B, from start to finish, the 2,000 metres, but actually for me steering that can sometimes be just as hard if not harder, because every small adjustment you make, you're going off in the wrong direction. So getting it dead straight, I really commend these beginner athletes.
And I think it's really good to see, you know, these athletes, you know, particularly if it's their first year of rowing, doing so well to steer, because obviously after the Olympics we had that moment in the men's coxless 4. So, you know, if you are new to rowing, it really is quite commendable that we're sending, you know, these fantastic rowers down without a cox.
Yeah, it's a huge skill, steering. It's all part of the sport. It's all part of rowing, but a huge skill to learn. And all of these crews doing extremely well. As I say, Leeds was just off the right-hand side of your picture, struggling with their line a little bit. They seem to have been got them back on track now, but a crew that's not been hampered by that whatsoever. Queen's University Belfast, look at that margin that they've got here over the rest of the field on the left-hand side of your picture. And over Surrey, like we say as well, Surrey University, their coach Ellie Stevens won one of the awards at the British Rowing Awards this year. She's a very talented coach, coaching that beginner programme, and I know her and Megan Hunter, who coaches the Queen's Belfast crew, share a lot of their experiences and their coaching tips and tricks, and they come up against each other time and time again. But it's going to be Queens, I think, bearing in no disasters in this last 100 metres, that are going to emphatically win this one.
Absolutely, and here they come into the red boys, the last 250 metres, choosing to continue their excellent rate. Look at those finishes as they come through. There we go.
And beautifully like they're bringing the boat towards them, letting the boat run underneath them, just letting the boat do the work. And Surrey being chased quite hard here. I wonder whether that will affect them for the final.
I know, you can just see the heads dip as they come through the finish line, but undulation and celebration.
Yeah, the bow there of the Surrey University quad, a little bit of a tap on the boat, a little bit of celebration getting into the A final provisionally. Obviously, all results are provisional. We have to make sure it's a clean race. Reading and Liverpool will complete the lineup in that field, along with the University of Leeds, who will be coming in to complete that 6-boat field. But Queens on your screen now, victors in that AB semi-final by quite some margin.
Hello everybody, if you're just joining us, welcome to the BUCS Regatta live stream for this year. We are on our first day of racing and you have joined us in our semi-final for our women's intermediate quads. And as we get to the 1,000 metres, we can see that Edinburgh have taken nearly a 10-second lead over Strathclyde, Newcastle, Durham and Cardiff.
Yeah, Edinburgh University with a huge number of entries here across the 3 days. We were only on day one, but I believe 77 boats entered for them across the course of 3 days. They are really focusing on winning the Victor Ladorum, which, if you're tuning in and you don't know what that is, you're new to rowing, you're new to BUCS, the Victor Ladorum is the overall club winners of this regatta. You get points for every race that you finish in sort of the A final. Your points accumulate across the 3 days, and the overall most successful club, in inverted commas, you know, those that get the most points from their entries, will succeed at winning the overall Victor Ladorum. So Edinburgh going for that this year. I'm made very well aware. Their head coach Colin Williamson, new father, he had his baby just this last week gone. So congratulations to Colin Williamson, head coach of Edinburgh University. What another great celebration it would be for him if their club can produce the results that they're hoping for. And certainly this women's intermediate quad doing a very good job at the moment of controlling the field. They can look back at the nearest contenders to their left over in lane number 6. Look to me like Bath University, and then a great fight for third. I think we're going to have quite the fight on our hands between Newcastle and Cardiff potentially, or even St Andrews actually. I think that's St Andrews on the right hand side of our pictures. They've just been picked up by Alan Sinclair, ex-Olympian, ex-GB
Very
international
casual,
rower.
as you do. Everyday occurrence for me.
Well, St Andrews now being coached by Alan Sinclair, and it looks like in this final 250 metres they're starting to press through Newcastle and could make the A final here.
It looks like it's very much paying off. So congratulations to Alan. Yeah, obviously absolutely fantastic. We love an intermediate race because it's obviously people that might have necessarily been novices last year, they might have rode before, so you do get a real mix of well, years of experience, let's say, and that can all come into play. So as they enter their final stretch, as we hit the red buoys, there we have Edinburgh just storming through, just consistent power, and that is
St Andrews University. So 2 Scottish crews here spearheading the first of our AB semi-finals in this women's intermediate quads event, and that would be a real success for Scottish rowing. And yes, St Andrews will edge out Bath into 3rd place. Durham being demoted to the B final, it looks like,
as
with
well
Newcastle.
as Newcastle.
That northeastern powerhouse of Durham and Newcastle won't feature, it looks like, currently in the A final. However, both Newcastle and Durham have another opportunity. They both are in the next semi-final as well, Freya.
And there's Cardiff just crossing the line. Okay, and here is our second semi-final for the intermediate quads with Reading. Oh, did the timings?
So Reading University on the right hand side of your picture. We already talked about Newcastle having another opportunity to get into the final. They currently feature in the middle of your screen. They sit next to on the left of the picture. I think that looks to me like Birmingham in lane number 2, which would be a great result for them. Surrey on the left hand side of your screen, and over to the right where we can't see them, Durham and Sheffield.
Okay, as we come through the 1,000 metre mark, we have our order of Reading, Newcastle, Birmingham, Sheffield, Durham and Surrey. Still a very, very close race with 8 seconds between them, and only a second, 1.5 seconds between Reading and Newcastle, so still very much all to play for.
Yeah, and just like we saw in the previous race, actually, where we had the St Andrews crew sort of pressing on in that last 500 metres, and they really made an impact. So I know it's more difficult in the bigger boats to change speed very quickly because you need everyone on board in order to do that, but this order that we've got right now could change. And in fact, actually, I think over on the left hand side of your screen, Sheffield in lane number 6 are starting to make a move on Birmingham, and I know it's difficult to tell with the sort of spacing, but they are moving up. Birmingham still sit in 3rd place from what I can see, with Newcastle and Reading ahead of them, but a great little surge here from the University of Sheffield.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say, you know, you come to regattas to race side by side. Obviously you want to win, but you do want to get that adrenaline, and you do want to get that comparison. You know, you want your athletes to be feeling a little bit under pressure, a little bit under tension, even if you know they're going to win.
Well said. I think that, yeah, you're absolutely right. You want it to be tight, you want it to be close, and in fact this is going to be a very, very closely fought race for the final spot into the A final. I think Reading and Newcastle, Reading in the centre of your screen, Newcastle in the blue next to them on the right, are fairly well secured, but Birmingham under pressure from Sheffield. You can't see Birmingham just because of the inset in our picture at the moment of the next race going off the start, but I assure you they are there. They're just poking out the top of the inset now, and there is overlap between Sheffield and Birmingham.
Birmingham just hit a buoy, which may just cost them that place in the final. But you can't hear it, but there is an absolutely enormous crowd for this one. The roars of the spectators, and here they come.
So it's going to be Reading University who just about clear the stern of Newcastle University by around about a length. It's going to be going over the line. It's then Newcastle in second. Birmingham managed to avoid disaster with that blade clip, and they will be very relieved for that to stay ahead of Sheffield, pushing them back into fourth. Surrey and Durham basically over the line at the same time. We'll have to wait for the official confirmation of results there. But what an amazing race.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. So on your screen right now you can see our semi-finals for our men's intermediate 8s. If you are tuning in to watch somebody you know, the semi-finals essentially construct our finals. The top 3 boats in this semi-final will go through to the A. Oh, we've got both Newcastle boats in this one. Fun!
Newcastle love the intermediate 8s. They're always here in force. They love the 8s racing. And we've got a few of the usual suspects in this event, actually. Just looking across the board, Newcastle B in 6, Newcastle A in 5. It's then Bristol in lane number 4, and I think Bristol powering out here. This would be a great result for Bristol University in this intermediate 8s category, coming out ahead of Newcastle. They've been training hard all winter and under new leadership, under new coaching structures, and Bristol looking really well together. They've got clear water over the rest of the field in such a competitive field as well, because we've got Oxford Brooks next to them in 3, Durham in 2, Bristol in 1, and I can't see Oxford Brooks, which concerns me that they either are very far out in front or they are behind Bristol, which would be a complete turnout for the BUCS. And in fact, there are Oxford Brooks behind Bristol.
Absolutely. Wow. And as we have just come through the 1,000 metres, we can see that, I think that's Bristol with an incredibly quick 3:02, followed by Durham with 3:06, Newcastle 3:08, Oxford 3:09, Newcastle B, I want to say, with 3:15, and Bristol B? Is that right? Yeah, Bristol B with 3:16.
Well, this would be quite something. I know that this is the Oxford Brooks B crew, for any other B crew, I think we'd be sort of fairly non-surprised about this result. But considering Oxford Brooks usually fill the A final and fill the finals with numerous crews, seeing 3 crews leading Oxford Brooks out and then potentially not making the A final with their second crew in this event would be quite surprising, I would say, personally. Bristol doing incredibly well to be beating both Newcastle and Durham's second 8s. Now, that is one thing I will say, actually, though. This will be Bristol's first 8, right? So Bristol, I don't think have an 8 entered in Championship. I could be wrong, but I will take a quick look. No, they don't have an 8 entered in Championship. This will be Bristol's first 8. Now, this will be Newcastle's second 8 to their left, Durham's second 8 to their right, and this will be Oxford Brooks' third 8, essentially, sat next to them. So it is a very impressive result, but I think we need to take into consideration the calibre of this Bristol crew.
Absolutely.
This will be their top 8 guys.
Absolutely, but looking at the synchronicity of the crew, it definitely looks like an impressive row. I think that's the thing. Could this be a tactic thing? Could it be a preserving energy case? Is that what's going on here? Interesting. Either way, you know, if you can see that you're leading Brooks, you would just send it.
You're going to stay there, aren't you? You're going to be very
not
motivated to stay there. And just looking at the order we've got coming down now into the final 200 metres, Brooks have got about a length to make up on Durham to move themselves into second place, and a length and a half, almost 2 lengths to make up on Bristol. Wow, this is amazing. I think Brooks have actually steamed through Newcastle University. We could see Newcastle's A crew missing out here on the A final of Intermediate 8, which I would say again, very surprising. Durham pressing on and trying to get overlap with Bristol now.
And here come Bristol into that final 250. The boys have turned red. The boys will know exactly what they have to do. Sitting up, eyes up, absolutely sending it. The Durham crew just clinging on to their second place. But Brooks making a very successful move over that Newcastle A boat, and there it is.
Yeah,
wow, well done, Bristol. There you go, you can see Strokeman just absolutely clapping and slamming the blade. Fantastic. There comes Newcastle, followed by Newcastle B and Bristol B. What a fantastic race.
Yeah, and do you know what? I know that there were a lot of the same clubs and crews there littering that AB semi-final, the usual suspects, Brooks, Newcastle, Durham, but actually a nice surprising result, and I will be very intrigued to see that final later on. We've got the second semi-final coming up now. We're about to see it. That will be Cambridge A, Oxford Brooks A, who I would expect to do quite well, Exeter A, Edinburgh University, London A, and Imperial College A. So again,
fantastic.
The quality in these men's intermediate 8 semi-finals is pretty stunning.
I just think you just don't get racing like that pretty much anywhere. I love university rowing, it's fantastic.
Now, like you said, in that previous race, Brooks had come through Newcastle from halfway to the finish. 1,000 metres is a long time to try and change some things. So let's jump into this next semi-final of the men's intermediate 8s. Imperial A in 6. That's on the left-hand side of your picture if you're just joining us. London A in 5. This is going right. Edinburgh in 4, Exeter in 3, Oxford Brooks A in 2, and Cambridge A in lane number 1. So, again, looking at the time trials and the way that these crews have been seeded in the lanes, to me, the top 2 lanes, we call it the chevron formation, the top 2 crews from the time trial should be in lanes 3 and 4. So Oxford Brooks A being in lane number 2.
Slightly surprising.
Well, they would have either cruised the time trial, which is very characteristic of them.
We got told that was a risky tactic.
A very risky tactic.
Absolutely.
Or something went wrong for them. But I would expect the former. However, Exeter University, another crew where I suspect this is their top 8 here in intermediate 8s, but up here challenging with Edinburgh and London are the leading crew here. UL, a very strong presence. It was UL's crew that disrupted Brooks last year from getting the 1, 2, 3 in intermediate 8s. UL taking a podium place in this event back in 2021 and looking strong to try and do that again. But look at this overlap across the whole field. This is going to be a sensational one. Halfway gone,
shot.
And a canvas separating our leaders, UL and Exeter.
I think this is a fantastic shot for those of you who haven't rowed or are joining us for the first time to actually watch the synchronicity and the different techniques of the crews involved here. You know, the recovery times, the rates, the catches. It is really, really interesting to see in side-by-side racing, something that we don't get to see in head race season. And as we come into the first 1,000 metres, here we have our order. We've got Exeter separated by a second from Edinburgh, separated by a second from Oxford Brooks A, separated by a third of a second from London, separated by 3 seconds from Imperial, and then 6 seconds to Cambridge. I think people are always very surprised. If you don't know a lot about rowing, you would assume the supremacy of Oxford and Cambridge, and it's quite interesting to explain to family and friends of mine that actually that's not necessarily the way things work. And I'm very excited that my mum's listening. Hi, Mum.
Well, yeah, it's so true though, because people say, Oxford and Cambridge in the final of the boat race every year.
Yeah.
Very funny. But no, this is University of Rowing. This is the kind of diversity we get. I know this isn't a great example of diversity in the men's intermediate 8, but
perhaps not the best example of mine to choose.
Well, Cambridge, Imperial, London, Oxford Brookes, Edinburgh, Exeter, but certainly it's not just Oxford and Cambridge, right? So that's
Absolutely.
box 1 ticked. But UL, very, carrying that strength through. They seem to be hanging on to a bit of a lead, but they're not snapping that elastic band. We call it that in rowing here. They need to have a bit more of a buffer, and I think they're opening the door here a little bit for Exeter, who just seem to have a little bit more send on the boat. Oxford Brookes also coming through in this final 500 metres, and I think in fact could win this. They've just been holding back. Edinburgh in the hot seat here in 4th.
I agree. I think Oxford Brookes made a terrific move in their last, really, 400 metres would be my estimate, almost side by side with that Exeter crew. Even, I think, is that a tiny push from Edinburgh onto University of London for that 3rd place? The crowd has gone absolutely mental down here at Holme Pierrepoint.
This is going to be a stunning race. Can Edinburgh edge out Oxford Brookes? That would really be a turnout for the Books. I'm sure they're very motivated to try and close out an Oxford Brookes crew in the intermediate ace race for 2022. It's going to be on the line. I think from Exeter certainly there with the win. I think it was then UL, and I think Brookes may be on the surge, but that was one of the best races of the day to try and get into that A final, and my word, it would really be a turnout if Oxford Brookes A have not made that A final.
There is a 1/5 of a second separating 3rd and 4th. We are still waiting. I think that really was photo finish, wasn't it? There we go, there's our Cambridge men just crossing the line. You can't see that on your screens. Ooh.
So a bit of a replay here, and you can try and judge it for yourselves. You can see the line that we've got, and I think it will just about be Oxford Brookes, but this isn't the real finish line, right? We'll have to wait for our finish judges to decide.
What a race! Exeter, pat yourselves on the back. I mean, there was absolute undulation from the boat. I mean, slapping the boat, slapping the water, which is always the best part. It's fantastic. That's the best feeling. Oh.
And watching that is the best feeling as well. We'll have to come back to you. We'll update you on those results. We've got them here on our screen, just waiting for confirmation. Like we say, we'll have to go to the photo finish, which does take some time, but we'll update you with that as soon as possible. But now, onto the repechage of the Championship 8. So 2 crews, 2 crews to go through from this repechage between London, Imperial, Durham, Edinburgh, Newcastle and Oxford Brookes. So a lot of those names very familiar, because we've just seen them in the semi-finals for the intermediate 8 with a lot of their second crews.
Life parallels itself, hey?
But who's your money on here, Freya?
I mean, we've just had Bristol and Exeter absolutely storm through the intermediates. Should we go random? No, let's not go random. Do you know what? I'd love to see Imperial. I'd love to back Imperial on this. If we're backing the people, we're backing the people, and it's got to be Imperial.
Wow, that is random. I think that's that they haven't been up at the top of their game for quite some time now, Imperial. But this could be the year.
We've seen mental things can happen at university boat racing. Let's not judge this year, I think. So, fantastic starts from all boats. For those of you joining, championship crews are the best of the best. And we have our update.
So from that previous race, if you were watching that photo finish, I can see on my screen here, it was a 3rd place for Oxford Brookes ahead of Edinburgh University. Well, that's what I'm seeing on my screen, and it was only 0.5 of a second separating them, nothing much at all. But Edinburgh looking to get revenge here, as they have come out of the blocks like a rocket. They're out at the head of this repechage.
You'll just be able to see the cocks just leaning forward, really making sure everything is said with intent, really motivating the crew, because they know exactly how hard this is going to be.
Yeah, Lizzie Dixon in the cox seat for Edinburgh. She's want to keep them in this position here. Top 2 to go through. Much easier if you're out at the front in the driving seat to keep the rest of the field under control. But there's a chance they might have gone too early. We just saw in that previous race, right? Edinburgh were in a qualifying spot until moments to go. Moments to go. So it was very tight in the final 1,000 metres. It's London currently leading this field. London just on the left-hand side of your picture there. They'd have been disappointed to not directly qualify from the time trial, and I think actually they've got clear water here.
Yeah, it looks very much like we're going to see a University of London dominance here, followed by Edinburgh, Newcastle, Oxford Brookes B, Durham and Imperial. Again, you know, there is 3 seconds separating the 4 crews underneath Edinburgh, so really could be all to play for here.
Yeah, 3 seconds. It's about a boat length, 1 boat length. So I think at this point in time, it's going to be difficult to make up that much distance to University of London, right? It's going to be really difficult to do that. In fact, there might even be 4 qualifiers from this, because only 2 would have gone through in the time trial.
Yeah, repechage's bottom 2 are not in the final, correct?
So repechage is, this is just 1 repechage, I believe, we've got in Champ 8. So yeah, it should be the top 4 to go through. Sorry, 5, the top 5 to go through. So just 1 to be eliminated here in this race. And so yeah, actually, at the moment, Oxford Brookes are currently in last position along with IC. It looks to me like Brookes have been dropping back. We'll have to keep tabs on this. London, certainly, no questions about that. Left-hand side of your picture, that's the University of London. Imperial College next to them. Durham ahead of IC, but just behind Edinburgh, and that's the 4 that you've got on your screen at the moment. London in the lead, Edinburgh in second, Durham in third, Imperial there in 4th slot, but you can't see just to the right of the picture what's going on between Newcastle and Oxford Brookes. So final crew to be eliminated here, and as it stands, I think it's Imperial College London just trailing off the pace there at the top of your picture.
Again, like we've mentioned before, this will set the lanes for the final, and it's so important to ensure that you have that lovely clean water in the middle. So it's crucial, and also for the Victor Ladorum, is making sure that you secure points for your university. So here they come across the finish line. We have University of London safely through, followed by Edinburgh, followed by Durham, Newcastle, Brookes, and Newcastle again.
And Imperial.
Imperial. Oh my goodness, apologies. There's too many navies.
Yeah, it's a
strong colour. Strong colour, but again, so many.
But again, difficult with that championship repechage. 5 to go through, 1 to be eliminated. It was almost certainly going to be Imperial by the looks of the kind of final 500 metres. Brookes quite far back on that. Not going to lie, I don't know if Brookes have brought their top squad here this weekend, because usually in Championship 8s, that Brookes crew would have been much closer to the head of the field. They did a 1-2 in Championship 8 once upon a time.
Yeah.
And I know their top crews qualified through the time trial most likely very easily, but
I think it's interesting. I think BUCS Regatta, you know, to some people, including myself, is the most important thing in the rowing calendar. You know, this is, you know, lots of what most crews will train for, but then you've also got things like Henley Women's, you've got Henley, and, you know, for lots of people, well, for a very select few, there is obviously GB trials as well. So lots of people here at BUCS Regatta working towards different things, but still trying to get the best result for their university. But it is interesting how those tactics do come through, and perhaps taking certain races easier, even if that is the Championship 8. You know, if that's what works for you, that's what works for you. Couldn't be me.
And but that's again the beauty of some of these rowing events, and BUCS especially is one of them, is that breadth of motivation, breadth of goals. Is that at the championship end, we've got some people who are racing here this weekend that have been to the Olympic Games. You know, we've got Imogen Grant, who's going to be on our commentary team later on, who came 4th at the Olympics. She's going to be here taking you through the minor finals, which will be awesome.
Like myself. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, one day. And we've then got the likes of Grace Prendergast racing in the Cambridge Women's 8 tomorrow.
Lovely.
The number one female rower in the world, the Kiwi Olympic champion, will be racing in the Women's 8. So that's the top end of BUCS Regatta. And then we've got people who are, aiming to win intermediate, win beginner, people who only learnt to row in September. It's just awesome that this caters for everyone.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to say, obviously, just to commentate on the screen, here we can see our men's lightweight intermediate ones in our first final of the day. Woohoo! And it's obviously lovely to actually get to see the full start, as we can see. There we go. Obviously, you have that graphic on your screen, but on the left and the right, you can see they take their first strokes. For those of you who haven't rowed before, this is where the rowers will be taking very short and very snappy strokes, often very upright with it as well, just to get the speed on the boat, to get the run on the boat before they lengthen out into the full technique. So yeah, really lovely to see that, and it's often, very revealing a start. Starts are not the be-all and the end-all, but they do consist to a good race. Mentally, I think, as well.
Yeah, getting a good start is box number one ticked, right? A lot of rowers that you speak to talk about focusing on the first stroke only, and that's the start, right? Taking stroke number one and then thinking about stroke number two, and that sets you up for your race, right? So you're absolutely right. It does indicate a lot, and especially in singles, it's a small, lightweight boat. It's just you. You don't have to time with anyone else. That start is very indicative of what races to come. So you can just see on the horizon here the umpire getting into position behind the single sculls in this first final of the day, as Freya has mentioned. So the B final, so this is indicating places 7 through 12 in this event. Glasgow in lane 6, Strathclyde A in 5, Edinburgh in 4, Aberdeen in 3, De Montfort in 2, and Cardiff in 1.
Just to go back to what we were saying about university rowing, I think the fabulous thing about university rowing is that because of the subsidies and the grants and so on, and universities actually love having good rowing teams. I think it's really important to say that lots of people here won't have rowed before, in terms of obviously we have the beginner categories, but lots of people, this will be their first opportunity to row, and I think BUCS really gives people the platform to do that, and I think that's really important for moving people up and for just general cohesion as well, in terms of having people that didn't row before university as well. I think that's really important.
And it's a great, like you say, it's a great platform. Like it gives you the opportunity to take those stepping stones. So if you've enjoyed rowing here at beginner level, intermediate level, you can then go on some of the university training days that are organised by British Rowing. Who
very
are
good segue and plug. I must say that's why you're the professional in this one. Very good segue.
But it's they're here all weekend. The guys that are doing the sort of testing for the British Rowing University Training Camp. That is a great pathway, and they do a lot of talent identification through that. And so that's for all universities. That's not just the top universities or the ones with all the funding. It's for anyone, so you can go along and have a go. And that can be the start of a continued pathway through to the GB team, the
world-class
Olympics
start and onwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So we're still going with this B final here of the lightweight men's intermediate single sculls. A great start here for lane 5, Strathclyde University. They certainly will be going for the championship title as well. Ben Parsonage we'll see later on going for the medals. But in this B final, it's Anthony Frederick who is in the lead there in the very
dashing polka dots. I would say they rival Bath's rubber ducks. I know that's controversial, but I think they're up there. And the blades, fantastic.
It matches so well.
Maybe that's what makes them go so fast. Strathclyde, if that is your secret, please reveal. I know you wouldn't, but please reveal.
Some people have go faster stripes, but go faster spots.
That's the one. That's the one we want to see. It's like the Nottingham Trent pink. Fantastic. Great choice. Why go for a navy when you can go for a neon? Hey, offering fashion advice.
Why blend into the crowd when you could be Nottingham Trent?
Exactly.
So just 3/4 of a length separating Strathclyde and Aberdeen. It is really wow. I've actually just noticed we've got 4 Scottish crews from 4 different, well, technically 4 different cities. Strathclyde and Glasgow very close together, but we'll give it. So 4 Scottish crews.
Fantastic for Scottish rowing.
4 furthest lanes across. Fantastic for Scottish rowing. What a way to demonstrate how strong lightweight rowing is in Scotland at the moment. And yeah, the Glasgow sculler just off the right hand side of your picture, you can't quite see them over in lane number 6. Strathclyde leading the way ahead of Aberdeen, and just sandwiched in the middle there, we've already talked about what Edinburgh University are trying to do this weekend, so great to see them in this B final.
I think in terms of like the Scottish rowing excellence, as someone who's half Scottish, I think the Scottish rowing spring regatta is a properly good revealer and indicator, and you know, Strathclyde and Aberdeen both came away with some pretty successful medal hauls. Oh my goodness, I can't see the screen.
I think it looks like the umpire was whizzing across to the other side of the lake. I don't know whether that's because someone else is charging into the lead. It often indicates that the umpire's boat tends to follow the fastest crew, and it made a huge swerve just then.
Oh, he's slowly moving back
to try and move across to the lanes 1 to 2. But back with the race, and still Strathclyde, still Mr. Fiedorek, who is in the lead ahead of Jakub Zybowski of Aberdeen. It's then Mark Kennedy of Edinburgh sandwiched in the middle, like I say, that little Scottish sandwich we've got in lanes 3 to 6.
Fantastic bit of alliteration.
The Scottish sandwich, I like it. Usually that would be full of haggis and lawn sausage, but instead we've got some lightweight men's intermediate scullers. But over on the kind of tower side of the lake, that's the right hand side, must give a shout out to both Cardiff and De Montfort, our 2 English and Welsh contenders in this race. They are off the pace somewhat, and no medals awarded here for the B final. Remember, this is only determining the rankings, places 7 to 12, like we said. The medals will be in our next race, our first medals, very excitingly, in the next race to come, which is the A final of this event.
I can see them being set out on a table beneath me. I'm very excited. I will say De Montfort had a great set of results at Bristol Head, I've got written down here, which was very, very good, and also some BUCS Head, some top 10 finishes there, so I'm not entirely surprised to see a De Montfort boat in this final.
Yeah, De Montfort always have a great set of beginners, actually. They do really well at developing beginner rowers into intermediate rowers, which is exactly what we were talking about earlier, right, is seeing that progress from being in the beginner events one year to being in intermediate events the next, and I don't know whether that's the case here with this sculler, Jack Edgar, but yeah, certainly from a programme perspective we see that quite a bit. Now, the field tightening up here at the start, and I think actually Aberdeen sculler Zybowski is coming through to try and snatch the lead off Fiedorek, and it's going to be tight to the line here. Who said singles racing was boring?
No one, did they? I've never said that.
I've heard some people have.
Oh,
but,
goodness. Not
no,
real rowing fans.
If you look at the screen right now, it is absolutely going to be neck and neck coming into the line. It's looking to the left here for Jakub Zybowski of Aberdeen. Has he done enough to overtake Anthony Fiedorek of Strathclyde? I think he might have done.
I think this might be a photo finish. Crikey.
And a photo finish for third as well, because behind Glasgow and Edinburgh knocking chunks out of one another, an age-old battle there. It's going to be Aberdeen over the line, a canvas ahead of Strathclyde. Edinburgh then just sneaking through in that battle of the Scottish medal final. Well, we're looking back at the images of the start. They're actually, in fact, closer towards 500 metres to go. I'd say they're probably about 600 metres to go at the moment. Just having a look at the horizon. I know you can't see it on the pictures, but we're in a very lucky position here in commentary that we can see.
Got the eyesight of a hawk.
No, indeed, that is Dominic Murtagh of Queen's University Belfast in the lead. He's being joined up front in the silver medal position by Ollie Hanks of Derby.